Parenting is tough, but parenting a child with ADHD? That's a whole different game. Did you know that ADHD affects about 1 in 10 children in the US? That's millions of kids, each with their own set of challenges. But here's the thing. What works for most kids often doesn't work for kids with ADHD. You've probably tried all the usual strategies, strict schedules, discipline, and maybe even medication. Yet, nothing seems to stick. Why? Because ADHD brains work differently. In fact, research shows that children with ADHD are 11 times more likely to have major challenges in school and life than their peers. Shocking, right? But don't worry, this isn't another guide telling you to just try harder. In the next few chapters, we'll dive into why some strategies fall flat and what you can do instead. We'll bust some common myths, explore how the ADHD brain ticks, and give you real, practical advice that actually works. Ready to learn how to truly connect with your child and help them thrive? Let's get started. Chapter 1. ADHD Myths. Busting common parenting assumptions. ADHD is often misunderstood, leading many parents to rely on strategies that just don't work. You might have heard that kids with ADHD simply need more discipline. That's a myth. These kids aren't acting out on purpose, their brains are wired differently. According to Dr. Russell Barkley, an ADHD expert, ADHD is not a disorder of knowing what to do, but of doing what you know. Many parents believe that ADHD can be outgrown. This isn't true either. About 60% of children with ADHD carry symptoms into adulthood. So, expecting kids to just grow out of it can set both you and your child up for frustration. Instead of waiting for time to do its work, it's better to learn strategies that work with your child's unique needs. One common assumption is that medication alone will solve everything. While medication can help, it's not a magic fix. It needs to be paired with behavioral strategies. In fact, the CDC reports that behavioral therapy, when combined with medication, is often more effective than medication alone. So, if you're relying solely on meds, it might be time to rethink your approach. Another myth is that kids with ADHD are just lazy or unmotivated. But here's the truth: ADHD affects the brain's reward system. This means tasks that don't provide immediate rewards can feel almost impossible for them. So, instead of labeling your child as lazy, understand that they might need more immediate incentives to stay motivated. Structure is often touted as the cure-all for ADHD, but rigid structure can backfire. ADHD brains crave novelty and can struggle with monotonous routines. Flexibility within structure is key. Dr. Edward Hallowell, an ADHD specialist, suggests that people with ADHD need stimulating environments and engaging tasks. So, finding the right balance between structure and variety is essential. Lastly, some believe that ADHD is caused by bad parenting. This is one of the most harmful myths. ADHD is a neurological condition, not a result of how you parent. Knowing this can help you focus on effective strategies rather than feeling guilty or blaming yourself. With the right knowledge and tools, you can help your child thrive, regardless of these myths. Chapter 2. The ADHD Brain. Understanding the unique wiring. To understand why some parenting strategies fail, we need to dive into how the ADHD brain works. The brain of a child with ADHD is like a race car with bicycle brakes. It's fast, powerful, and full of energy, but it lacks the control needed to navigate smoothly. ADHD impacts the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for decision-making and impulse control. This means that traditional methods of discipline, like timeouts or grounding, might not be as effective. The brain's reward system is also different. Children with ADHD often seek immediate gratification and struggle with delayed rewards. So, saying, "You'll get a treat if you finish your homework later," may not work as intended. According to research, children with ADHD have lower levels of dopamine, the chemical that helps regulate mood and attention. This explains why they might seem easily distracted or unable to focus on tasks that aren't immediately engaging. Therefore, strategies that rely solely on sustained attention, like long lectures or extensive homework sessions, can often fail. It's also important to note that ADHD affects executive function, which is like the brain's management system. This includes skills like organizing, planning, and completing tasks. So, while a neurotypical child might respond well to a list of chores, a child with ADHD might feel overwhelmed. Breaking tasks down into smaller, manageable steps can make a world of difference. Interestingly, children with ADHD often have a hyperfocus mode, where they can concentrate intensely on something they find fascinating. This is why some strategies should leverage their interests. If your child loves video games, for example, you can use that as a reward or even integrate it into learning. The key is to work with the ADHD brain, not against it. Research also shows that kids with ADHD are more likely to respond to positive reinforcement than punishment. Instead of focusing on what your child did wrong, try to catch them doing something right. A study from the Journal of Abnormal Child Psychology found that positive reinforcement significantly improved behavior in children with ADHD. This might mean praising your child for small accomplishments, even if they seem insignificant. Understanding these aspects of the ADHD brain can help you tailor your parenting approach. It's not about forcing your child to fit into a mold, but rather adapting strategies that align with how their brain functions. If this video's hitting the mark, subscribe now and let's keep the good times rolling. Chapter 3. The Cookie Cutter Trap. Why one-size-fits-all fails. Parenting books and advice columns often promote one-size-fits-all strategies, but when it comes to ADHD, these can be a recipe for frustration. Each child with ADHD is unique, and what works for one might not work for another. The cookie-cutter approach often overlooks this essential fact. For instance, many parenting guides suggest strict schedules. While routines are important, a rigid schedule can feel suffocating for a child with ADHD. Their brains are wired to thrive on flexibility and novelty. A study published in Pediatrics showed that children with ADHD who had flexible routines tailored to their needs showed better outcomes than those with rigid schedules. Standard discipline techniques, like taking away privileges, might not work either. Because children with ADHD often struggle with impulse control, they might not fully connect the consequence with their actions. Instead, it can be more effective to implement immediate, logical consequences. For example, if your child forgets to put away their toys, having them pick them up immediately, rather than losing TV time later, might be more impactful. Homework is another area where the one-size-fits-all approach often fails. A traditional approach might be to set aside a specific time and place for homework every day. However, children with ADHD might benefit more from short, focused sessions with breaks in between. Research by Dr. Rosemary Tannock suggests that breaking homework into chunks can improve focus and reduce frustration. Sleep routines also vary greatly among children with ADHD. While most advice recommends a strict bedtime, some kids with ADHD might have trouble winding down. In these cases, allowing for a calming routine that includes reading or listening to soothing music might be more effective. Flexibility here can lead to better sleep, which in turn helps with attention and behavior during the day. Moreover, diet is another area where a one-size-fits-all approach falls short. Some children with ADHD respond well to dietary changes, such as reducing sugar or adding omega-3 supplements. However, these changes don't work for everyone. It's essential to experiment and observe what works best for your child rather than following blanket advice. Finally, remember that traditional praise might not always resonate with a child with ADHD. They might feel that their efforts go unnoticed because of frequent criticism. Try to offer praise that is specific and immediate, such as, "I noticed you put away your shoes without being asked, great job." This approach helps reinforce positive behavior in a way that feels genuine and attainable. In short, the cookie-cutter approach often overlooks the unique needs of children with ADHD. By customizing your strategies, you can better support your child's growth and happiness. Chapter 4. Emotional Roller Coasters. Navigating ADHD mood swings. Parenting a child with ADHD often feels like riding an emotional roller coaster. One moment, they're happy and engaged, the next, they're frustrated and overwhelmed. Understanding these mood swings is key to effective parenting. Children with ADHD can be more sensitive to stimuli, both physical and emotional. This heightened sensitivity means that what might seem like a minor issue to others can feel like a big deal to them. For example, a simple change in plans could trigger a meltdown. It's important to validate their feelings, even if they seem disproportionate. Dr. Ross Greene, author of The Explosive Child, suggests that kids do well if they can, meaning that emotional outbursts are often a sign of unmet needs rather than intentional misbehavior. One effective strategy for managing these mood swings is to help your child identify and label their emotions. This is called emotional coaching. When your child can name their feelings, it gives them a sense of control. For instance, if they say, "I'm frustrated because I can't find my toy," you can acknowledge their feelings and work together to solve the problem. This technique not only calms the situation but also teaches valuable emotional regulation skills. Routine and predictability can also help manage mood swings. Knowing what to expect reduces anxiety, which can often fuel emotional outbursts. However, it's crucial to balance routine with flexibility. As we discussed in the previous chapter, children with ADHD thrive when they know what's coming but also have room to adapt. A predictable morning routine, for example, can start the day on a positive note, while allowing some flexibility in the evening helps them wind down at their own pace. Another strategy is to use calming techniques before emotions escalate. Deep breathing exercises, for example, can be very effective. Teach your child to take a few deep breaths when they start to feel overwhelmed. According to a study in the Journal of Attention Disorders, mindfulness practices like deep breathing can reduce ADHD symptoms and improve emotional regulation. Physical activity is another powerful tool. Exercise helps regulate mood by increasing dopamine and endorphin levels in the brain. Encouraging your child to engage in regular physical activity, whether it's playing a sport or simply running around in the backyard, can make a significant difference in their emotional stability. It's also important to recognize that transitions can be particularly challenging for children with ADHD. Moving from one activity to another can trigger anxiety and mood swings. To ease transitions, give your child a heads up before it's time to switch gears. A 5-minute warning before leaving the playground or turning off the TV can help them mentally prepare for the change. Lastly, don't forget the power of connection. Building a strong, positive relationship with your child can help buffer against emotional volatility. Spend quality time together doing activities they enjoy. This not only strengthens your bond but also creates a foundation of trust that helps during difficult moments. Chapter 5. Routines Reimagined. Flexibility over rigidity. Routines are often recommended for children with ADHD, but strict schedules can sometimes do more harm than good. The key is to reimagine routines with flexibility in mind. Traditional routines can feel confining for kids with ADHD. Their brains are wired for spontaneity, and a rigid schedule can stifle their natural energy and creativity. Instead of a strict schedule, try creating a flexible routine, a basic framework that allows for changes based on your child's mood and needs. For example, instead of setting an exact time for homework, you might designate a block of time in the afternoon when it usually happens, with some wiggle room for breaks. A study by Dr. Margaret Weiss, a leading ADHD researcher, found that flexible routines were more effective for children with ADHD than rigid ones. The study showed that when routines were adaptable, children were less likely to resist and more likely to engage in the activities planned for them. Incorporating choices into routines is another effective strategy. Giving your child options helps them feel in control and reduces power struggles. For instance, you can let them choose whether they want to brush their teeth before or after putting on their pajamas. These small choices give them a sense of autonomy, which is especially important for kids with ADHD who often feel like their lives are overly controlled by others. Visual schedules can also be a game changer. Many children with ADHD are visual learners, and having a visual representation of their routine can help them stay on track. You can use pictures, charts, or even a simple whiteboard to map out the day's activities. This visual aid serves as a reminder and can reduce the need for constant verbal prompts, which can sometimes lead to frustration. Another aspect of reimagined routines is to build in reset moments throughout the day. These are short breaks where your child can step away from a task and recharge. Whether it's a quick walk, a snack, or a few minutes of quiet time, these breaks help prevent overwhelm and keep your child's energy balanced. According to research from the American Journal of Occupational Therapy, sensory breaks can significantly improve attention and focus in children with ADHD. It's also helpful to incorporate anchor points in your child's day. These are consistent, comforting activities that happen at the same time each day, such as reading a bedtime story or having breakfast together. These anchor points provide stability, making the rest of the day's activities feel less daunting. Routines should also evolve as your child grows. What works for a 6-year-old might not work for a 10-year-old. Regularly review and adjust the routine based on what's working and what's not. Involving your child in this process can make them feel more invested and more likely to stick with the routine. Lastly, remember that flexibility doesn't mean chaos. It's about finding a balance between structure and spontaneity that works for your child. A routine that is too loose can lead to anxiety, while one that's too strict can lead to resistance. The sweet spot lies somewhere in between, where your child feels both secure and free to be themselves. Like what you saw. Subscribe and stay connected with all our latest videos.